Detroit's storied past is a microcosm of America's grand narrative. From industrial prowess to cultural renaissance, its history embodies the nation's struggles and triumphs. Join me on a journey through the ashes of the past, where the Motor City's untold stories await. As we delve deeper into the ashes of Detroit's past, we find ourselves in the early 18th century, when the city's strategic location at the confluence of the Great Lakes made it an attractive outpost for French colonizers. In 1701, Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, a French explorer and administrator, founded Fort Pontchartrain de Detroit, which would eventually become the city of Detroit. The fort was established to control the waterways and trade with the indigenous peoples, particularly the Huron and Algonquin tribes. Cadillac's vision for the settlement was not only to create a military outpost, but also to establish a thriving commercial center, leveraging the region's abundant natural resources, including beaver pelts, timber, and fertile soil. The early years of Detroit's history were marked by a delicate balance between the French colonizers and the Native American tribes. The French relied on the indigenous peoples for trade and survival, while also seeking to convert them to Christianity and impose their own culture. This complex dynamic is exemplified in the figure of Cadillac himself, who navigated the intricate web of alliances and rivalries between the various Native American tribes, often walking a fine line between diplomacy and coercion. As the settlement grew, it became a hub for the fur trade, with merchants like Cadillac amassing fortunes from the lucrative business. One of the most significant events in early Detroit's history was the arrival of the Jesuit missionaries, who established the mission of Stayes. And in 1707, the mission played a crucial role in the city's development, not only as a center for Christianization, but also as a hub for education and cultural exchange. The Jesuits worked tirelessly to learn the languages and customs of the indigenous peoples, establishing a rapport that would have far-reaching consequences for the region's history. Meanwhile, the French colonizers continued to expand their settlement with the construction of new buildings, including the iconic Stay and Church, which still stands today as a testament to the city's rich cultural heritage. As the 18th century progressed, Detroit's strategic importance continued to grow, attracting the attention of British forces seeking to expand their colonial empire. In 1760, during the French and Indian War, the British captured Fort Pontchartrain de Detroit from the French, marking a significant shift in the city's trajectory. The British renamed the fort Fort Detroit and established a new administrative system, with Major Robert Rogers, a seasoned military officer, appointed as the first British commandant of the fort. Under British rule, Detroit experienced a period of relative stability, with trade and commerce flourishing along the Great Lakes. The city became a key hub for the fur trade, with merchants like John Askin, a Scottish-born trader, establishing themselves as prominent figures in the local economy. Askin's extensive network of trading relationships with Native American tribes and his fluency in several indigenous languages made him an invaluable asset to the British administration. The British also invested in the city's infrastructure, constructing new buildings, including the iconic Fort Lerneul, which would later play a significant role in the city's history. However, tensions between the British and the Native American tribes continued to simmer, with many indigenous peoples resenting the British presence and the erosion of their traditional way of life. The arrival of British settlers and the expansion of agriculture in the region further exacerbated these tensions, as Native American lands were increasingly encroached upon. In 1778, during the American Revolutionary War, Detroit played a crucial role as a British stronghold in the Northwest Territory. The city's strategic location allowed the British to maintain control over the region, despite the fact that the Continental Army had declared independence from Britain. The British used Detroit as a base to launch attacks on American forces and their Native American allies, leading to a series of skirmishes and battles throughout the region. One notable figure who emerged during this period was Charles Langlade, a French-Canadian fur trader and military officer who had defected to the British side. Langlade's knowledge of the region and his relationships with Native American tribes made him a valuable asset to the British, and he played a key role in several military campaigns against American forces. His legacy would continue to shape the city's history, as his family became prominent figures in Detroit's society and economy. As the American Revolutionary War drew to a close, Detroit's strategic importance continued to grow, with the city serving as a key British outpost in the Northwest Territory. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris, which ended the war, granted the United States control over the territory, but the British refused to relinquish Detroit, citing concerns over Native American relations and trade agreements. This led to a period of tension between the Americans and the British, with Detroit becoming a focal point in the dispute. In 1787, the Northwest Ordinance established the Northwest Territory, which included present-day Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. The ordinance created a framework for governance and settlement in the region, but it also sparked controversy over land ownership and Native American rights. Detroit, with its strategic location and existing infrastructure, became a key hub for American expansion into the territory. One notable figure who played a significant role in this period was John Askin, the Scottish-born trader who had established himself as a prominent figure in Detroit's economy. Askin navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries between the British, Americans, and Native American tribes, using his extensive network of trading relationships to maintain his position and influence. He became a key advisor to the British administration in Detroit and later played a role in the city's transition to American control. In 1794, Jay's Treaty, signed by the United States and Great Britain, resolved the dispute over Detroit and the Northwest Territory. The treaty established the border between the United States and British North America, with Detroit being ceded to the Americans. The British evacuated the city in 1796, marking a significant turning point in Detroit's history. As American control was established, Detroit underwent a period of transformation, with new buildings, roads, and infrastructure being constructed. The city became an important center for trade and commerce, with the fur trade continuing to play a significant role in the local economy. However, tensions between the Americans and Native American tribes continued to simmer, with many indigenous peoples resenting the encroachment on their lands and the erosion of their traditional way of life. In 1805, the Michigan Territory was established, with Detroit serving as its capital. The territory's first governor, William Hull, played a significant role in shaping the region's development, promoting settlement and agriculture while navigating the complex relationships between the Americans, British, and Native American tribes. His tenure was marked by challenges, including the ongoing struggle for control of the Northwest Territory and the increasing tensions leading up to the War of 1812. The outbreak of war in 1812 brought Detroit to the forefront once again as American forces clashed with the British and their Native American allies. The city's strategic location made it a key prize, with both sides seeking to control the region's trade and commerce. In July 1812, British forces, led by General Isaac Brock, captured Detroit from the Americans, marking a significant setback for the United States. The city remained under British control until September 1813, when American forces, led by General William Henry Harrison, recaptured it during the Battle of Lake Erie. As the American forces, led by General William Henry Harrison, recaptured Detroit in September 1813, the city's strategic importance became even more pronounced. The British defeat at the Battle of Lake Erie had weakened their grip on the region, and the Americans were determined to consolidate their control over the Northwest Territory. In the aftermath of the battle, General Harrison established a military government in Detroit with the goal of restoring order and stability to the city and its surroundings. One of the key challenges facing the American authorities was the need to rebuild and repair the city's infrastructure, which had been damaged during the war. The British had destroyed many of the city's buildings, including homes, churches, and public buildings, leaving many residents without shelter or access to basic services. To address this need, the American government allocated funds for the reconstruction of Detroit, and a team of engineers and architects was dispatched to the city to oversee the rebuilding efforts. As the city began to take shape once again, attention turned to the issue of trade and commerce. The fur trade, which had long been a mainstay of the local economy, continued to play an important role in Detroit's development. However, the war had disrupted the traditional trade networks, and many of the city's merchants and traders were struggling to re-establish their businesses. To support these efforts, The American government established a series of trade agreements with Native American tribes in the region, which helped to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. One notable figure who played a significant role in Detroit's post-war development was Lewis Cass, a young lawyer and politician who had served as a lieutenant colonel in the Michigan militia during the War of 1812. Cass would go on to become a prominent figure in Michigan politics, serving as governor of the Michigan Territory from 1813 to 1831. During his tenure, he worked tirelessly to promote the development of the region, advocating for improved infrastructure, education, and economic opportunities. In 1815, the Treaty of Spring Wells was signed, which established a framework for relations between the United States government and the Native American tribes in the region. The treaty marked an important milestone in the history of Detroit, as it helped to establish a period of relative peace and stability in the region. However, tensions between the Americans and Native American tribes continued to simmer, and conflicts over land ownership and trade agreements would remain a major challenge for the city's leaders in the years to come. As the 1820s dawned, Detroit was poised on the brink of significant growth and development. The city's population was expanding rapidly, driven by an influx of new settlers and immigrants from Europe and other parts of North America. The construction of the Erie Canal in 1825, which connected the Great Lakes to the Hudson River, further solidified Detroit's position as a major commercial center, facilitating trade and commerce between the East Coast and the Midwest. As the 1820s progressed, Detroit's growth accelerated, driven by its strategic location at the intersection of the Great Lakes and the burgeoning transportation networks. The city became a hub for trade and commerce, with merchants and traders from across North America converging on the city to exchange goods such as furs, grains, and lumber. One notable figure who played a significant role in Detroit's commercial development during this period was Russell Alger, a young entrepreneur who had made his fortune in the fur trade. Alger would go on to become a prominent businessman and politician, serving as governor of Michigan from 1885 to 1887. The construction of the Erie Canal had a profound impact on Detroit's economy, facilitating the transportation of goods between the East Coast and the Midwest. The city's port became one of the busiest on the Great Lakes, with ships arriving and departing daily, carrying cargo such as wheat, corn, and coal. To accommodate this increased traffic, the city invested heavily in infrastructure development, including the construction of new docks, warehouses, and roads. One notable example of this infrastructure development was the construction of the Woodward Avenue thoroughfare, which would become one of the city's main commercial arteries. As Detroit's economy continued to grow, the city also began to experience significant cultural and demographic changes. The influx of new settlers and immigrants from Europe and other parts of North America led to a diversification of the city's population, with people of different ethnicities, religions, and backgrounds coming together to form a vibrant and dynamic community. One notable example of this cultural diversity was the establishment of the German-American community in Detroit, which would go on to play an important role in the city's social and economic development. In 1827, the University of Michigan was founded in Detroit, marking an important milestone in the city's educational and cultural development. The university would go on to become one of the premier institutions of higher learning in the United States, attracting students and scholars from across the country. During its early years, the university was located in a series of buildings in downtown Detroit before eventually relocating to its current campus in Ann Arbor. The 1830s saw significant challenges for Detroit, as the city faced economic downturns and conflicts with Native American tribes in the region. The Black Hawk War, which broke out in 1832, had a profound impact on the city, as many of its residents were forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in other parts of the state. Despite these challenges, Detroit continued to grow and develop, driven by the determination and resilience of its people. One notable figure who played a significant role in Detroit's development during this period was Territorial Governor Stevens T. Mason, who served from 1831 to 1840. Mason was a strong advocate for the development of Michigan's infrastructure, including roads, canals, and bridges. He also worked tirelessly to promote the state's economy, encouraging investment and innovation in industries such as manufacturing and agriculture. As the 1840s dawned, Detroit was poised on the brink of significant growth and transformation. The city's population had swelled to over 20,000 people, and its economy was booming, driven by the expansion of industries such as shipping, manufacturing, and trade. The construction of the Michigan Central Railroad in 1846 further solidified Detroit's position as a major transportation hub, facilitating the movement of goods and people between the East Coast and the Midwest. The influx of immigrants from Europe, particularly from Ireland and Germany, continued to shape the city's cultural landscape. Many of these newcomers settled in Detroit's burgeoning neighborhoods, such as Courttown and Eastern Market, which would become hubs for commerce, entertainment, and community life. The city's vibrant cultural scene was also reflected in its thriving arts community, with numerous theaters, music halls, and art galleries springing up throughout the city. As Detroit continued to grow and develop, it also faced significant challenges, including poverty, crime, and social inequality. The city's leaders worked to address these issues through innovative solutions such as public housing, education initiatives, and social welfare programs. One notable example of this was the establishment of the Detroit House of Corrections, which provided a safe and supportive environment for women and children in need. As the 1850s progressed, Detroit's economy continued to thrive, driven by its strategic location on the Great Lakes and its role as a major hub for trade and commerce. The city's shipping industry experienced significant growth with the construction of new docks and warehouses along the waterfront. One notable example of this growth was the establishment of the Detroit Dry Dock Company, which built and repaired ships for the burgeoning Great Lakes fleet. The city's manufacturing sector also expanded during this period, with the production of goods such as stoves, wagons, and machinery becoming increasingly important to the local economy. The Detroit Stove Works, founded in 1850, was one of the largest and most successful manufacturers in the city, producing high-quality stoves that were shipped to customers across the United States. Detroit's cultural scene continued to flourish during the 1850s with the establishment of new theaters, concert halls, and art galleries. The city's first professional theater company, the Detroit Theater, was founded in 1851 and quickly became a popular destination for entertainment seekers. The company performed a wide range of plays, including Shakespearean classics and contemporary melodramas, and featured some of the most talented actors of the day. The city's educational institutions also experienced significant growth during this period, with the establishment of new schools and colleges. The Detroit Female Seminary, founded in 1850, was one of the first institutions of higher learning for women in the United States, offering courses in subjects such as literature, mathematics, and music. The seminary played an important role in promoting women's education and empowering women to take on leadership roles in their communities. As the 1850s drew to a close, Detroit was poised on the brink of significant change, driven by the rapid expansion of the railroad industry and the increasing importance of the city as a hub for trade and commerce. The construction of the Michigan Central Railroad's new depot in 1858 marked a major milestone in the development of the city's transportation infrastructure, providing a state-of-the-art facility for the handling of freight and passengers. The arrival of the railroad also brought new opportunities for growth and development to Detroit's surrounding neighborhoods, with the establishment of new industries and businesses along the rail lines. The village of Delray, located just south of the city, experienced significant growth during this period, driven by the construction of new factories and warehouses along the railroad. As the Civil War loomed on the horizon, Detroit played an increasingly important role in the national debate over slavery and states' rights. The city's strong abolitionist tradition and its location on the Underground Railroad made it a hub for anti-slavery activism, with many prominent citizens speaking out against the injustice of human bondage. One notable example of this activism was the work of Sojourner Truth, a former slave who traveled extensively throughout the United States, giving speeches and lectures on the importance of freedom and equality. The city's African-American community also experienced significant growth during this period, driven by the influx of freed slaves from the South and the establishment of new businesses and institutions catering to their needs. The Detroit African Methodist Episcopal Church, founded in 1839, was one of the oldest and most prominent African-American churches in the city, providing a spiritual home for hundreds of worshipers and serving as a hub for community activism and social justice. From its humble beginnings as a French colonial outpost to its current status as a thriving metropolis, Detroit has consistently demonstrated resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to progress. The city's impact on American industry, culture, and social justice cannot be overstated, and its legacy continues to inspire and shape the lives of people around the world. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.